But before I go any further, I would like Miss J. I would like to ask Miss J if she would mind taking the pleasure and bringing our special guest on.
Yes. Well, in America, we call him Malik. At home, he's called something else. But I'm going to go with Malik Al Nasir. And he's a poet, he's a filmmaker, he's an artist, he's a social activist. He's really a great guy. And I'm very glad we have him on today. And before we get started, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Miss J, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a real pleasure to be here. Hi to you too, John. Glad to be invited on your show. It's a great privilege and an honor. So I hail from Liverpool in the UK. We're known for our football, what you guys would call soccer. We're doing pretty well at the moment, and to the whole UK music invasion from the 1960s with the Beatles and all of those guys. So we've got a kind of a musical history here in Liverpool, but my origins are in Guyana in South America. My father is Guyanese. So that's where I come from background-wise. But for the last I would say 30 years or so, I've been developing as a poet and spoken word artist under the tutelage and tuition of my mentors, the late great Gil Satan and the legendary Last Poets, the forefathers of what they call proto-rap, the kind of rap that preceded rap. Some call them the godfathers of rap, some call them the grandfathers of rap. But these guys are my mentors and teachers and the people whose tuition I came up under. So I've developed my art and my activism directed and guided by their hands.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about that. What started you with your activism? I didn't have opportunity to play your one of your poems, your poetry songs, which really kind of breaks it down. But let's talk about that a little bit. What made you turn your music into activists, like to use it for activist purposes?
Well, if you'd like me to drop one of the poems that I have spent at night, but I'd be more than happy to do that for you, Miss J.
Drop it, babe.
Okay, drop it. So this is a poem about my life story. It's called Power. So when I was a kid, I was taken into the what we call the care system. I think over there you guys would call them juvenile hall or group homes. It was due to my father's paralysis and my mother struggling. We was living in a ghetto, and the social services came and took me away at the age of 9. They locked me behind bars as a kid, and I didn't really get out properly until I was 18 years old. They dropped me on the streets in a hostel for the homeless. I was barely literate. And that's the state I was in when I met Gil Scohan. So Gil encouraged me to write poetry, to learn how to read and write through the use of poetry, and then to become literate. And I used it as a means to articulate my pain, and that was really the beginnings, if you like, of my activism. So when I was thinking about the concept of power and who's in power and who exercised power and control over me and my life, and kind of messed up my childhood in the way they did, entity that was recognizable as power, because it's an impersonal thing. It's a state. There's no one person you can point at and say he's power or she's power, So I just thought I'm just going to write like an open letter, and I'm going to address the letter to Power himself. And this is called Power. Dear Power, can you tell me who's responsible for the economic blight that plagues my hometown? See, I've spent half a life asking why the streets run down, where children play, corruption reigns, and broken dreams from wall to wall in council house and racist school. Mother is naive and truthfully stands faceless in unemployment queue. She's low on pharmaceutical dope because you stole her kids, said you'd help her cope. You had all the answers when she signed the sheet. You just thought of the kids. She was back on her feet. But when she came to take them back, oh, we're terribly sorry. You can't do that. The children asked, what have they done? The system phase were overrun. The social workers on commission. There's no remission. The children striving to be free. The system lying dreams of dying mothers, dying the system thriving. Cast your vote, politicians say. To ghetto, they're all the same. Yes, what have they done for me? It's still the same, and I'm 23. I try to work. Who'll take the honor from the ghetto? My skin is brown. Should you move away to wear a jacket? They take you soon if that's all you've got. See, there's always a market for a tender soul from a broken home with a dream that's bold, but it'll make you look like a living doll and break you down when you discover what yourself wrong. Then calm your mane and comfort your pain with false emotion, exploit your devotion. When they burn you out, your heart's ragged and torn, and you care for yourself the day you were born, they just throw you back to the gutters of strife. At the end of the day, hey, it's only your life. So you're back on the streets, but who wants you around? You traded your soul, they say, pound for pound. You're not the same guy you used to be. You're no longer welcome, as you can see. So pack your things. Why don't you go? Don't call on people you used to know. So you're back at the start. Potential fodder for jail. See, the system's laughing if they make on your bail. Because it don't really matter if you win or you lose. The solicitor earns and the barrister too. Then the judge will decide just how long you'll be used. Because the wardens make money, the judge does too. And society is protected from the threat that you pose, and the system will thrive as the industry grows, and it guides a free enterprise and justice. Indeed. See, I'm no longer deceived, because I know your power, and I want a reprieve. That's called power.
That's deep. You know, that's so deep. Yeah, it is deep. And it's interesting that you're having the similar struggles that the poor Black communities have over here as well. It's like, it's really, you know, there's no difference. You know what I mean? Like, the power controls and the young men over here as well, you know, they suffer from that. But to be locked up at 9, at an age where a child should not, that's just so sad, you know.
Bars on the windows and all that kind of stuff, you know?
You know, that troubles me. That really troubles me, you know, because, man, to have a child locked up till he's 18, you say you got out when you was 18, from 9 to 18?
Well, the way it works, you get put, you made what they call like a ward of court. So the state takes, becomes what they call in Latin, they say in loco parentis, or in lieu of the parent. So what happens is your legal status is changed, that your parents no longer have legal power over you.
Wow.
The state takes legal power over you. So the state becomes in loco parentis, or in lieu of the parent, which then means that the state is your parent. So the state has all the parental rights and responsibilities, and your parents have none. So they can then put you wherever they want to put you. So, you know, they put me in solitary confinement for the first 2 weeks at the age of 9 to acclimatize me to having a life in their care. So basically, you're not going to get out, we're in control, this is what we're going to do. So then when they let me out, the first thing I did was I absconded, I ran away, I went home, they brought me back, I ran home, they brought me back, and then they took me to another place, and another place, and then they said, okay, now we're going to put you in a place where you can't get out, and they put me in a place that was not individually in solitary confinement, so the people were in dormitories, but everything in the place was locked down. There was bottles on every single window, every door was locked behind you. You know, you might have been going to bed at night, you were in a room, there were 6, the doors were locked. So although it wasn't cells in the same way as a prison would be, it was dormitories, but the actual place itself was run on the same. They were running what we call remand home rules, and remand in the UK is like when somebody gets arrested and they're waiting for trial. So they would put them on remand. They remanded into custody. Okay, so this was being used as a remand home, but because the local remand centre at the time when I was taken into care, they put a lot of children in there and mixed them with the remand prisoners. So I was 9 years old. I was with prisoners who were up to 18 years old, many of whom had committed armed robberies and, you know, serious offences, murder, manslaughter, sexual offences, you know, a whole range of different offences. And they just put this 9-year-old kid amongst these people. And I had committed no crime. What had happened was we had had familial breakdown. My father had gone into hospital, he'd had a stroke, he'd become a quadriplegic. My mum couldn't cope, the social workers were cold, I was considered to be troublesome, you know, so they put me under a care order. So I'm supposed to be treated differently to someone who's committed a crime as a young offender. I was placed in the young offenders institution and treated exactly the same as them.
It's horrible.
And even still, even at that age, even the young offenders shouldn't have been treated in that way. So years later, I developed some skills and you know, some legal skills, and I took them to trial, and I sued them, and it took me 10 years in courts to sue them. But when I won my case, I used the compensation money to establish my own publishing company, Forward Press, and I published the book of poetry that I'd written during the time when I was learning to read and write, when Gil was tutoring me and mentoring me, and that book of poetry was called July, and it was published in 2004 under Forward Press, which is my publishing company, which I still have to this day. And the body of work that I put in that book is 33 poems in the book. At the time, my name was Mark Watson, so I changed my name when I became Muslim in 1992. But the body of work was written before then. I decided to publish it, Ordinary Guy by Mark T. Watson. So that's out there. You can buy that like on Amazon or whatever. It's available. The book is in print. And, you know, when I perform poetry and stuff, you know, I take it around and sell it at the shows. But I've developed further work since then as a poet, and I'm just in process. My next book of poetry, which is provisionally entitled Rebel Roots, which hopefully is going to drop by the end of the year.
That, you know what? That's so commendable.
But it's no money in the world can replace the, you know, your childhood, you know, and no money in the world can pay you for the trauma that you went through. That's trauma, man. I mean, you know, like, hey, you know, like I'm a very strong advocate for young people, you know, and man, that just breaks my heart. You understand, to see young people, you know, go through things like that, you know, because you know it does because we shouldn't, as human beings, you understand, we shouldn't have to go through that, you know. The adults supposed to take care of the young people, the young children. They're supposed to guide them and love them, give them attention.
The perception and
it's just sad,
and there's a reality. I mean, what you're saying is absolutely right when you're dealing with a humane society. But, you know, we're dealing with colonial powers. You know, these are not humane, particularly towards black people. In America, you have the prison industrial complex. We all know it's a private industry. It's largely unregulated in terms of, you know, the motivations for it. You know, it's driven by profit. They need to get more people in there in order to divert tax dollars into that system. And
that's
you know,
true.
The more people they get in there, the more prisons they build. The more tax dollars that gets diverted into that, the more profitable it is for the shareholders. So they're trying to get people in there for long periods of time. So that's why they do the 3 strikes and all this kind of stuff. And picking up black people, particularly for any small thing, and locking them up forever. You know, I saw a case where a guy in America, 65 years in jail for murder. He was out in a burglary with another guy. The police shot the other guy and charged him with murder because he was an accomplice of the guy who got shot by the police, and gave him 65 years. He's like 20 years old.
Yeah, it's really sad.
If you go out and you commit a robbery, you should be charged with the robbery. Or if someone else is with you and they commit a robbery, then okay, you're an accomplice to the robbery. But if the police shoot the other person, you can't even say that because you were there doing the robbery when the police shot the other person who was with you robbing, that you're now being charged with murder, because the police were seen to have acted lawfully. They said the police acted lawfully. So even though the person, may have been harmed or whatever, I don't know, they had that case with the white kid who shot up the school with 17 people killed dead, and they managed to take him alive. But you got a black person with a gun. They didn't, they said their life was threatened or whatever. He didn't shoot the gun. He didn't discharge the firearm, but they shot him dead and then charged the person who was with him with his murder. And gave him 65 years. He's 20 years old. So there's no justice in the system. It's not a system which was predicated on justice. It's a system which is predicated upon white supremacy and colonial supremacy and the subjugation of black people, regardless of where they are situated. And, America was a British colony. So, these guys over here, school know how to do that stuff. So what you're doing over there, it's just that it's now bigger and stronger than the tail is wagging the dog. But, it's colonialism at its at its best, what you guys see there. And they're starting to do that same thing over here. When I was suing the government for the time that I spent in care, I had learned to educate myself through my poetry. I had gone to college. I graduated with a bachelor's degree with honors. I went on and did a postgraduate diploma in social research, and then I did a master's degree. But while I was doing my research, the postgraduate diploma was part of a master's program in research methods, and I used the research methods to research my own case. So I went into the public library. A lot of the documents are disclosed for 20 years, and I literally conducted a one-man public inquiry into my own case. And I published a 42,000-word report that I submitted to the judge along with my statements of evidence. And literally, when that information was presented, they just wanted to settle straight away because, you know, I had demonstrated that a lot of these institutions operated illegally.
Wow.
They were operating under rules which did not pertain to them. So, you know, there was regulations for children in care who had committed no crimes, and there was regulations for prisoners on remand. And these guys were operating remand home rules over care homes, where, you know, care homes is like, you know, if mum dies in childbirth, so if you take him into care, he's committed no crime. Why should he be treated in the same place as bars on the window with criminals? But that's what they were doing. They're mixing it up. So I demonstrated that, and, you know, I became like a kind of big threat to them. So they just didn't want to really go to trial with me. So they settled. Right. But it was a matter of trying to not only get the restitution and trying to get the settlement, because obviously the settlement's not going to do anything to bring back the childhood. But what it was able to accomplish, it was able to flush out into the public domain the kind of mechanisms that these people were using to oppress children. And when that got into the public domain, there was a class action with another 200 kids who were all following behind me, and they used my evidence to settle up their claims as well. So I feel like I was able to make a substantive difference and hopefully cause a kind of paradigm shift in terms of the way they ran these kind of institutions. So it was, you know, it was a long kind of crusade, but I believe at the end of the day it did bear fruits for people, you know, beyond myself. And, you know, that's why I'm all about making a social impact. And, you know, everything I do is sort of geared toward that end. And I think it's rooted in my experiences of having gone through those injustices. And as I say, I wasn't locked up in solitary confinement that whole time. You know, I had a 2-week period at the age of 9 in solitary confinement. I had a period of about 4 months where I was in a place with bars on the windows. The rest of the time I was in places which were considered to be open, which you couldn't leave. You know, they were in control of you. You know, your every move. You were accompanied everywhere. You know, you couldn't leave the premises. You were, you know, and we were locked in at night. But you know, during the daytime and stuff, we were on the premises under supervision, and it was like a kind of an open prison type thing. You know, I had a couple of periods where they sent me home for a few months, and then it didn't work out. Then they sent me back again over that 9 years. But you know, the final thing, the point at which I homeless black youths, they gave me £100 and they made me sign a form to say I would never come. And that's how they left me. And that was the state I was in the day I met Gil Scott.
You know, that is really sad. So sad.
After all of that trauma you went through,
yes,
there's some good things. God blessed you and took care of you. And some good things have happened to you since that. And I want you to tell the audience a little bit about the good things that have happened to you since that.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. Miss J, you was going to try and say something as well. What were you trying to say?
No, I was just, you know, commenting on the moment. You know, I just, that's a lot. And John is correct. You know, you have been through a lot, but I know that you have taken all that lemon and made some fabulous lemonade. And so I agree with John. You know, I mean, no, really, you have. And you've done some great things. You've done, you produced one of the biggest hip hop conversations of, you know, about, legends in hip hop, writing poetry. You're still performing. You've done a lot of great things. And so I agree with John. You know, even though all those horrible things happened to you, look at you now. Like you're fabulous. You know what I mean? You stood up and you took it like a man, even though you was a boy, and you just, now you're a grown man and you got it in control. And I'm just proud of you. Just basically, I'm just very proud of you.
I appreciate that, sister. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. And to get that recognition from people over in the States as well, you know, is a big deal to me as a kid from Liverpool over here, you know. Just the fact that you guys reached out and wanted to even kind of broadcast this over there, you know, is a real big deal to me. So I appreciate that. Thank you. In answer to your question, John, yeah, there's been a lot of good things that have happened to me since. You know, praise the Lord and give thanks for those things. I suppose my parameters in terms of what I was trying to accomplish with my art and my activism had been sort of established by the injustices that predicated me meeting Gil Stahan. At the time I met him, I was traumatized, I was homeless, I was semi-literate, I could barely read and write because, you know, we'd spend most of that time during the care system, you know, doing manual labor. You know, they didn't put much emphasis on like book learning. So consequently, I didn't have the level of literacy or the qualifications necessary to enter into college or university or anything like that. But Gil had a master's degree in English, and he was all about, you know, entertainment, education, edutainment, and, you know, and about taking the positives in life and doing something with them. And I think what Gil represented to me when I met him in 1984 was hope for our people, hope for humanity. He took me on the road with him as a kid, as a runner. He never gave me a clear job description. He never demanded anything of me. Do you know what I mean? He just allowed me to be around the band. He allowed me to be on the bus. He allowed me to be at the hotels. He allowed me to be backstage at the shows. He just gave me space. He gave me a place to be among some people who were happy for me to be there. I didn't feel in any way, you know, like odd in that company, do you know what I mean? And it enabled me to think freely. Also, we were traveling to different places. I was in a different city every night. I went to places in the UK with Gil that I never would have gone to on my own. The first time I ever went to London was with Gil, you know? And then, you know, beyond, he took me to the States. We did a tour in 1988 for Black History Month with Richie Havens, right across the East Coast of America. You know, we toured the whole of Europe. We were in, you know, Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, Denmark. We was Germany, Austria. We went everywhere, you know. And all along the way, I developed new skills because I didn't want to be there eating food and taking up hotel room and costing money. To actually having my own band, Malik and OGs. We just come off tour in November. I've actually just done a tour with my band and sort of a tribute act that she does, playing. I do my own original material. And we shared the same stage in the same band, and we did a showcase performance and toured the UK in November. And that's called, you know, it's a showcase I do called The Revolution Will Be Live, which I put together in tribute to Gil. The first one I did in 2015, the Talib Kweli, reggae band Aswad, the band over here called the Christians, who had a hit with the bottle of Gil's in the 90s, and a couple of other people, and we did a big show over here, and, you know, got major publicity, front page news and so on, and then it was picked up in Canada. So we took the Revolution Will Be Live and toured it in Canada as well, and worked with Just Jamal Poet, who's the current poet laureate in Ottawa, and we opened the Cumber Festival and headlined that in Toronto, and did a whole bunch of other stuff in Canada as well with the Revolution Will Be Live. So it's become like a package that I now do. We do a combination of poetry recitals, seminars, educational workshops around activism and artists. And we also do live performances from full band shows and also film screenings, because I made a film with Gil in 2004 called Word Up from Ghetto to Mecca, and the story of my work and my relationship with Gil in my book. So I screened that film as well. And we also did a film about the first ever rap album, which we did with Chuck D, called Hustle's Competition, and about Jalal from Last Poet. So Jalal and I toured that film as well in Canada and also in the UK. We did Q&As and things like that around that. So I'm doing a lot of this stuff under the umbrella, if you like, of this thing that I've created called The Revolution Will Be Live. So it's essentially a revolutionary showcase, and we did lectures at Cambridge University. Can you imagine someone like me, a little street kid from Liverpool, who was like, was semi-literate at the age of 18. Now I got, 2 master's degrees, and I'm giving lectures at Cambridge University. It's like crazy. But the difference between that and what I started out with was having that mentor in Gil Scott-Heron. And then later Jalal from Last Poets, So, those mentors, they were the difference between life and death for me. They really were.
That's so awesome.
Not anywhere without those guys.
And that's really important to have mentors.
Sorry?
No, I was just saying it's really important to have mentors.
Well, we only got a couple of minutes left on the show, and I'm going to ask Miss J to start closing us out.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, John.
No, thank you for being here. If you had one positive, comment to leave for the audience, what would that be?
I would say to the people, what's going on in America right now with this whole experience. It's very hard to take the negative things that have been done to you, or that you've suffered, or that you've experienced, and you can find a way to turn them into some positive energy, and then use that positive energy to drive yourself forward. And that way, the thing which was designed to hurt you actually becomes the fuel that propels you to success. And that's the mantra by which I've always lived, and that's what I encourage young people to do as well. That way, the bad things that happen to you will never take you down. They'll actually just drive you forward. And the more people do that stuff to you, the further forward you get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And John L. Brown.
Yes, I would like to thank Mr. Malky for coming on the show. This has been, oh my God, I mean, this has been an experience and a half. Just to hear you talk, I just, man, I mean, my heart goes out to you. And, like you say, I mean, man, I don't know what to say. It's just been, I love this show. I wish we had more time, but I can understand, we'll call that you're calling from the UK, and this is a very, very expensive interview, everyone. So you guys just,
it's okay.
And there's still people calling in. There's still people calling in. But thank you.
People calling in, they want to talk?
Yeah, they want to talk. They want to talk. I guess they're still calling in.
I'm saying if you got some people that are calling in and they want to talk, I can hang for 5 minutes if you need me to respond to someone.
Well, I'm gonna say, okay. Well, I'm gonna say this: if anybody want to ask Mr. Malky a question or elaborate on something, please press 1 now, because we only got 5 minutes left on the show. He's gonna give us 5 more minutes, and that's it.
Well, I would like to say that I want to go back on that mentoring thing, because John does a lot of mentoring for a lot of young Black guys here in where we live, and it's so important. I know a lot of men say they don't have time, or their lives are so busy and this and that, but you and John too is proof that it really works if you take the time. Just take a few minutes. There are so many fatherless boys or young men who just don't have a positive role model within their family. But if you just take a little time, you know, it really makes a difference in a young man's life. And I'm not a man, but I've seen, you know, when John talked to the young guys and how they change, and then you're telling your testimony of how someone just gave you a hand. You're not a handout, but a hand. And it made such a difference in your life.
That was the only thing that was missing for me.
Yeah.
I just didn't have an opportunity. Someone just needed to open a door. I was willing to do the rest.
Yeah.
I wasn't waiting for someone to come and drag me through the ranks.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm with John. It's like so much information. Like, go ahead, John.
No, you did.
Go past the 70-foot. She was one of the first rappers, and it's hailed as the very first ever rap album because obviously, you know, Cool Herc was still in school when this came out. The album was released onto the market in 1973 on United Artists, but Cool and the Gang did 3 of the songs, and they didn't tell United Artists they were signed to another label, so it got taken off the market, but it only did 20,000 copies before it got taken off. So it became like an enigma, and people used to think it was like a jail toast, and people didn't, you know where it came from or who wrote it. But it was the foundation, and that's what became hip hop. And you know, when we did the Film Hustlers Convention as a 40-year anniversary, we wanted to make people understand the true origins of hip hop was actually rooted in revolution. It was not rooted in the kind of negative stuff that was around now. Hustlers Convention characterizes the negative stuff, but it characterizes it in order to tell people why not to do it. People took it in a different way. So Jalal was one of my mentors as well. So I helped him to make the film, and I was one of the producers on the film, and also presented a segment of the camera. Chuck D was the executive producer. It's available in America on Stars Network. You can get it on the pay-per-view platform on Stars. But if you Google Hustlers Convention 40th anniversary, you'll see the film, and you'll see the live show we did at the Jazz Cafe in London, which we filmed for the film. So I produced the live show. I also performed with my band Malik and the OGs to open the show for Jalal, and you know, we've been performing film screenings and poetry recitals together ever since. So that was Chuck D's executive producer, Ice T's in it, Immortal Technique, Trevor Nelson, Sonia Sanchez, Omar bin Hassan, Abiel Dunayawale, Darius James, who else? Melly Mel, F5 Freddy, MC Light. You know, there's a whole bunch of people in it. You know, but it's out there. People should check it out.
It's awesome.
To reach out to me, I have my Instagram and my Twitter, which is at Malik and the OGs. So Malik MALIK and AND the OGs OGS. So Twitter.
I'll post all that as well.
Malik Al Nasir, Facebook.
Yeah, I'm going to post all that. Well, thank you for your positive comment and the extra few minutes, but we really appreciate you taking the time. And thank everybody who joined us and listened. And I hope I don't know how I feel. I just feel a lot of emotions, but I hope it was blessing to you as it was for us. It was a great blessing. It was a great show.
It's always wonderful to have a platform to convey positive ideas, influence one person in a positive way someplace else, then that's a blessing.
Yes. Well, thank everybody for joining us. Peace and blessings.
And people, considered took the time to actually to reach out to me. I'm blessed and very, very humbled and grateful by that. Thank you so much, Jay and John. Keep up the good work that you're doing too. Hopefully we'll be able to collaborate sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody. Good night. And
matter of fact, hopefully, sometime in the future we can bring you back on and see if we can do this interview on us. Okay?
Anytime.
So that way
Anytime.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you very much for joining us, and back to you, Miss J.
I know you guys, they probably say Miss J done said good night 100 times, but I'm gonna say it one more time. Thank you very much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. We ran a little bit over. We had a prepared time, so that's what happened. But we are so blessed to have this interview. And again, thank everyone for listening. Thank you, my dear friend. And good night. Peace and blessings.
Good night, everybody.